Welcome to Open History channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more video like this one.
On May 5, 1945, U.S. troops liberated Mauthausen in Austria, finding starving survivors of brutal forced labor. The camp stands today as a warning of where hatred leads. In November 2009, a Utah caving trip turned fatal when medical student John Edward Jones became trapped upside down in Nutty Putty Cave. After 28 hours of failed rescue efforts, the cave was sealed as his memorial. Dunnottar Castle towers over Scotland's coast, like a defiant relic of the Middle Ages. In the 1650s, its cliffs hid the honors of Scotland, saving the crown jewels from Cromwell's advancing forces. In the 19th century, Julia Pastrana was exploited as a sideshow spectacle due to rare physical conditions. Fact: even after her death in 1860, her body was displayed for over a century before finally being returned to Mexico for a dignified burial in 2013. In 1975, Ricky Jackson was wrongfully imprisoned for 39 years based on a child's coerced lie. Fact: released in 2014, he served the longest wrongful sentence in U.S. history and now advocates for justice reform. Czech beauty Annie Ondra, posing for one of a series of photographs during a 1926 session with Berlin-based photographer Martin Badeko. Despite its shocking detail, this story collapses under scrutiny. No records confirm Victor Silt, the crime, or any Ohio courtroom incident in 1904. It survives as fabricated horror, not documented history. In 1952, 6-year-old Paul Alexander was placed in an iron lung after contracting polio. Fact: motivated by the promise of a puppy, he mastered frog breathing, eventually graduating law school and practicing as an attorney for decades. In the 1938 New England hurricane, fisherman Daniel O'Brien made 8 trips through 40-foot waves in a small boat, rescuing 47 sailors from a sinking freighter minutes before it broke apart. In World War I, Anna Coleman Ladd used her skills as a sculptor to craft lifelike facial prosthetics for disfigured soldiers. Fact: these thin copper masks, painted to match skin tones, restored the dignity and social lives of veteran medicine could not yet heal. Sikandar Begum of Bhopal ruled from 1860 to 1868, leading major reforms, founding modern institutions, and becoming the first Indian ruler to perform the Hajj in 1863. In Gold Rush Central City, Madame Lou Bunch ran a notorious brothel, yet became a healer and protector, nursing sick miners and turning a place of vice into a refuge of compassion. In March 1865, Abraham Lincoln visited wounded soldiers from both sides at a field hospital. Fact: when a Confederate colonel hesitated to shake his hand, Lincoln's gentle persistence moved the man to tears, bridging the chasm of hatred with a simple act of humanity. In the 1850s, neurologist Duchenne used electric shocks on human faces to force emotions, creating haunting photos that advanced science while exposing the dark cost of unchecked experimentation. On January 1, 1959, Che Guevara stands in the captured barracks of the Leoncio Vidal Regiment, days after Batista fled Havana, his cast showing wounds from earlier battles. Early 1900s, a British man stands by shackled Indigenous Australians, marking a dark era of oppression. Fact: Though chains and forced labor aimed to erase their identity, the resilience of these communities preserved their culture against all odds. The Statue of Liberty standing in Paris shortly before being disassembled and shipped to New York, 1884. Aysar. On January 1, 1959, Che Guevara stands in the captured barracks of the Leoncio Vidal Regiment, days after Batista fled Havana, his cast showing wounds from earlier battles. In January 1869, future kings Frederick VIII of Denmark and Edward VII of the UK shared a smoke in their 20s. Fact: bound by marriage after Edward wed Frederick's sister Alexandra, both men would eventually lead their nations into the early 20th century. On May 8, 1945, U.S. soldiers reached Ebony camp in Austria, witnessing starving prisoners receiving sugar cubes, a small act marking the first step back to dignity after years of suffering. In 1910, Einar Mikkelsen and Ivar Iversen were stranded in Greenland for 28 months after their ship was crushed by ice. Fact: they survived Arctic winters in a hut built from wreckage to successfully recover maps, proving Greenland was a single landmass. In the 60s, actress Lana Wood casually walked a leopard on a leash, epitomizing Hollywood's bold and exotic style. Fact: the sister of Natalie Wood, she became a star in her own right as a Bond girl. Geert Boomgaard, a soldier of Napoleon born in 1788, became the first verified person to reach age 110. Fact: though he survived the Russian campaign, he endured the heartbreak of outliving both wives and all 12 of his children. Built over 3,300 years ago, the Mycenaean Arcadico Bridge in Greece remains in use today as a marvel of Bronze Age engineering. Fact: constructed without mortar using massive limestone blocks, it is one of the oldest functional bridges in the world. In 1965, Vietnamese guerrilla Nguyen captured U.S. pilot William Robinson, an iconic image of war. Fact: reunited 30 years later, Robinson revealed he spared her life because she reminded him of his sister. Brigitte Bardot poses with her grandfather in the early 1950s, a glimpse of the future star's childhood before fame transformed her life forever. Afridi tribesmen stand at Jamrud Fort in 1866, guarding the eastern entrance to the Khyber Pass, a region long known for fierce resistance and strategic importance in what is now Pakistan. Miss Gwen Verdon, hailed as the model of models, poses at the Figurometer in Venice, California, 1939, embodying the elegance and style of pre-war American fashion. In the 1980s, thousands of miners toiled in the Serra Pelada gold mine, creating a landscape of human ants in Brazil's Pará state. Fact: this massive open-pit mine became an iconic symbol of the gold rush, where men climbed precarious ladders carrying heavy sacks of earth. Papu Devi of Pushkar, India, captured in a photograph over 20 years ago, became known as the woman with tigress eyes, her gaze intense and unforgettable, yet she continues her simple life today. 3 Jewish men arrived at Auschwitz in 1942, their identities erased and replaced by numbers. Yet decades later, fate reunited them, showing survival and life can outlast even the darkest intentions. The 1937 Nanking massacre was 6 weeks of systematic brutality and mass executions. Fact: With hundreds of thousands of lives lost, this atrocity stands as a horrific reminder of the consequences of unchecked power and hatred. Two sisters, orphaned by outlaws, became the Ghost Riders, hunting those who wronged them and turning grief into a legendary quest for justice in the frontier. The Bankes Arms in Corfe, Dorset, began as a 16th century manor built from local Purbeck stone and remained in the hands of Corfe Castle's owners for over 3 centuries. By 1951, only 3 Confederate veterans of the Civil War remained, living witnesses to a century of change from muskets to atomic bombs, bridging the past with a modern world. The Slanic salt mine in Romania, opened in 1688, features vast underground chambers with towering walls and a unique microclimate, attracting visitors for both its scale and healing air. In February 1916, a French soldier wrote home, "I'm fed up with being in the water and mud." Fact: this stark photo reveals the brutal reality of trench warfare, where soldiers lived for months in freezing, flooded, and knee-deep filth. In 1854, Elizabeth Jennings defied segregation on a NYC streetcar. The court ruled in her favor, sparking early civil rights action and inspiring future generations. Mountain postal carriers braved snow, mud, and rivers, connecting isolated communities with news, letters, and hope, showing courage and perseverance in the harshest conditions. Mother and son embrace after the son escaped from the North Korean labor camp and returned to the South, 1950s. John Lennon and Yoko Ono pause as the maid makes the bed, continuing their iconic protest for peace against societal norms in 1969. Built 2 millennia ago, Roman roads remain a testament to engineering that connected an entire empire. Fact: by using layered stones and advanced drainage, these ancient highways were so durable that many still form the foundation of modern European routes today. Exhausted German motorcyclists in France, 1940, succumbed to sleep on their bikes after relentless advances on the front lines. Claudia Cardinale shines in the 1966 film The Professionals, embodying elegance and strength on the silver screen. On June 5, 1944, paratroopers of the 101st Airborne prepared to jump into the chaos of D-Day, carrying the fate of the world. Fact: despite heavy fog and intense fire, these screaming eagles fought for 33 days to secure the liberation of France. Milk is delivered by a dog cart around 1910 at Ventura and Lancashire Boulevards in San Fernando Valley, California, showing early 20th century urban life. In 1415, English miners tunneling under French walls were met by counterminers in dark, narrow pits. Fact: these underground fights were short and intense, fought in dim light with a high risk of friendly fire. Broadcasters host a radio program from a cafe on Rue Saint-Louis-en-Lillo in Paris, 1958, capturing mid-20th century French media culture. In 1945, Buchenwald's liberation revealed a death factory where 54,000 perished under systematic Nazi cruelty. Fact: The sight's horror was so profound that inmates even exacted immediate justice on captured guards upon their release. In 1952, 18-year-old Brigitte Bardot married director Roger Vadim, shocking Paris with passion and rebellion, launching her as the world's first cinematic sex symbol. In 1920, the British administration began in Palestine following the Sykes-Picot Agreement. Fact: English and Indian soldiers conducted routine checks in Jerusalem as the region's map was redrawn. Soviet soldiers in winter camouflage defending captured rooftops during the Battle of Stalingrad, January 1943. In Victorian times, a shoe-fitting device let women try shoes while keeping modesty intact, using mirrors and levers so fitters could measure feet without direct contact. In 1941, 54-year-old Alexei Koronev volunteered for Sidor Kovpak's partisan unit, earning the nickname Grandfather Frost. Fact: despite being exempt from service, he served as a political instructor during the Great Patriotic War. In 1938, Helen Hewlett defied courtroom norms by wearing slacks, standing up for women's right to choose their attire, and spending 5 days in jail rather than give in. Horse-drawn wagons navigate a snowy New York City street in the 1910s, showing how urban life adapted to winter before motor vehicles dominated. Tens of thousands of years ago, Homo sapiens shared Earth with species like Neanderthals and the Hobbit humans. Fact: through competition and interbreeding, Homo sapiens became the sole survivors of the human lineage. Members of the 5th Australian Light Horse Regiment posed with a motorcycle during World War I, showing soldiers from Queensland who served at Gallipoli and in Egypt. Most people think Venice floats, but it actually rests on millions of wooden piles driven deep into the mud. Fact: submerged and protected from rot, these pillars support stone platforms that have held the city for centuries. Members of the 5th Australian Light Horse Regiment posed with a motorcycle during World War I, showing soldiers from Queensland who served at Gallipoli and in Egypt.
Thanks for watching. Got an idea for a forgotten era I should explore? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to make it.